Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining our bi-weekly tips and tricks webinar. Today's topic is IoT on SMB. So please use the Q&A chat. If you have any questions during the webinar, we'll make sure we answer those. Turn off the masters and pay attention to our guest speaker today is an SMB architect from Ohio, Justin Souter. Justin, floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Robert. Hey everyone, good morning. As Robert said, Justin, I'm a solution architect. I cover basically a couple of the different three-letter acronym products. So SMB, IoT, and SD-WAN are the three things for me. Wanted to cover kind of in some technical detail my environment, what we're doing with IOT Protect today, and then go into any questions that you guys have as we go through it. So I'm not a death by PowerPoint guy, but I do think there's two slides here that kind of help set the stage for how we're doing things here. So the idea with IoT Protect is we want to make it easier for customers to detect enterprise type devices on their network without having to do complex third parties, that can typically be multi-month deployments and figuring out where to run spam ports and a lot of different pieces of it there. So we focused on the enterprise type devices to start with. I'm going to show you those in my environment and then kind of just go through anything else. But the idea here is also because we are a prevention company, we want to provide the ability to make some suggestions to customers on what the devices we discover should do. So typically with our environments, we're deployed, on the internet edge, looking at north-south traffic and doing those pieces of things. And the recommendations we have on policy are really based on that. Hey, do we want to make sure that an HP printer is only allowed to talk to updates.hp.com? Or maybe we know that it shouldn't talk to anything at all. We don't care that it updates, right? We can go to that level as well. But the point is we can start making some policies and seamlessly push them down to the gateway after enforcement and enforce those. We can also involve you if you'd like. I'm going to show you some stuff with play blocks if you haven't seen that before that kind of has some automation built around it as to what to do and talk about those pieces. And if you do have a third-party IoT discovery service, we do have an API that we're working with a bunch of vendors on that so that they can import their asset inventory into the Infinity portal as well. So if you're a customer looking for medical devices or manufacturing floor devices or things that we wouldn't necessarily detect with our native engine, we have the ability to import that data and then make similar kind of suggestions on that and use that in a dynamic policy to enforce whatever actions you want to take on that. So the architecture, really quick, as I mentioned here, is really made up of three components. Top down, we obviously have the Infinity portal. If you guys are using that for any of our other services today, you'll know that's kind of our web dev platform where a lot of our services are moving to. So IoT is one of those. SD-WAN that I work with is another one. There's a whole slew of products in there where we can do a lot of stuff. I think the idea there that I've seen is that tends to be just faster development where we actually get features there quicker. We're very flexible on working with customers and importing data into that and things like that. IoT Protect currently is available only on centrally managed devices. So I know we're talking about SMB today because that's what I'm running in my test environment. But basically any device that's centrally managed. We can do this on full-blown Gaia appliances as well, and we can do it on Quantum Spark devices that are centrally managed. So centrally managed, or the management server here, means Smart One Cloud, multi-domain, your own management server, Smart Center, whatever you want to do there, as long as you're centrally managing your devices. And I'll talk about why that makes sense in a second here. And obviously the third part is our gateway, right? We're in a spot with our device where we can pick up MAC addresses, we can pick up traffic flows, and we can see and do this analysis of devices. This is kind of the replacement of what a third party would do with near ports, where we don't have to near port a bunch of stuff in and kind of get crazy with figuring out how to extend those across buildings and things like that. Now, what we did take from the third party piece is this concept of integrating with third party services. Because we are on the edge, there are networks that are more complex that are, we might be 10 switches away and 5 routing domains between us and the actual appliance itself. We may miss east-west traffic as well. So we have these third-party integrations, and I'll show you, kind of a couple of those, but basically it boils down to a few. We can pull DHCP server logs from, from your DHCP servers in your environment. We can SNMP pull switches in your environment to get MAC or CAM tables off those. We can do info blocks, a couple other DHCP services as well. Cisco ICE if you have a NAC solution. The idea there basically is to just keep pulling in data from anywhere we can where we can get a MAC address, which is kind of the layer one piece, of discovery, or the first part. And then we start looking at the, the traffic flows and things like that as a secondary option. So that's really death by PowerPoint that I have. I'm going to jump into my environment and just kind of give you guys a tour around. Let me see here. I have been messing with my portal with R&D, so hopefully it behaves with me this morning. So this is the Infinity portal. Anyone now, this is GA as of 8120 and 8110, I think .05 on SMB. It might be
Hey,
.00.
Justin.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, you got garbled there for a second.
Oh, okay. Where did you lose me?
Just when you were clicking on that IoT Protection.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So, yeah, basically, as I mentioned, this is our Infinity portal. If you guys haven't used it, you can see all the various things that we're launching into this, and there's even more. But if I jump into IoT Protect, again, this being my portal here, anyone can go out and enable this. The first step you do is actually integrate your that central management server into this, so we can actually do that object synchronization and things like that with it. And it works, very well. With 8120 and the later jumbo hotfix of 8110, that is a 2 to 3 minute procedure via Smart Dashboard. There's actually like a new blue button in the dark blue over here says Infinity Services. You copy and paste a token, and you're off to the races on synchronizing the two there. So, excuse me. Past that, or once that piece is done, we're going to start the the onboarding piece that involves installing a nano agent on the devices. That is a one-line command to run, and it basically ties. And there's where I'm tempting fate with my portal today. Basically, what that does is that connects the gateway itself with that nano agent, so that it can send the hint data into the Infinity portal for analysis on what devices I'm seeing. And basically the Infinity portal, when I do things like publish and enforce, the Infinity portal talks back to that agent to say, okay, do these things, go and pull this SNMP switch, or pull this switch via SNMP or something like that. Those exercises happen from the agent that runs on the box that I showed in that past slide. So on my overview page, what I'll get is a breakdown of where I'm discovering.
Lost you again, Justin.
Yep, sorry.
Lost your audio again there.
Okay, I think we'll have to go with it, because that's
unless it's only on my side. Yeah, if somebody wants to throw in the Q&A or give me a thumbs up or down if it's just me. So
okay,
yeah,
we'll see.
Oh,
Hopefully.
Okay, they're telling me it's just me, so ignore me, please. Go on.
I'm pleasantly, yes. Hey, you know what? I've learned over doing these. You'd think 3 years in we'd all be consistent, but you're totally at the mercy of the phone system and your internet and everything else.
So all right.
Yep. Cool.
Go for it. Sorry about that.
No problem. So what I have here is basically the list of where am I discovering my assets from. So this is my environment. Quick overview on my topology. This is running on a 1590 that is also acting as my wireless access point at home. It is centrally managed by a Smart Center appliance that I also have running as a VM here. So the network-based discovery is what my device itself is detecting. Now mine is probably a little higher because I'm also using the wireless on that. So a lot of my IoT devices are obviously wireless and they're directly attaching to it. So I'm kind of maybe not cheating the system. I do think in the SMB space, I mean, this is why we have the wireless models of our appliances, is to handle exactly this kind of thing. So I'm getting a lot more assets out of that. I also integrated into my, I have a DHCP server running on a full-blown Gaia box that is similar in setup to the Unix DHCP setup or profile that we have, but with some slight variations because we hardened that a little more than the standard Linux one. So beyond that, I have this concept of assets and zones. Assets are obviously individual assets. Zones are these groupings over here. So you can see some of the things that have been detected in my environment. Like I said, I mess with this with R&D and kind of do some stuff a little off the rails with them. So sometimes I start getting errors that a normal user wouldn't see. But things like my smart plugs. I went a little crazy and got a bunch of smart plugs that individually report power usage. So I plugged them all into my rack, and now I can tell you, how many amps one power supply of one of my Dell servers is running, and all kinds of worthless data to absolutely anyone else. But it's fun, and it kind of makes my IoT story. Where I use this, and I actually encourage all the SEs to do the same thing, is to run this in their environments, because I was even surprised. I had forgotten about a couple of things that I had in my network over time. But, I also like to tell stories about that because I think it makes it more relatable. We know that every time we've done any kind of POC around IoT, we have found some kind of weird IoT device story. Mine is I'm lazy in the morning, and when my alarm goes off, I tell Alexa to turn on my espresso machine, which is tied to a smart plug. Fantastic. That's probably not a problem for anybody in an office space, but maybe it is. But the point is, people use these technologies and they bring them in from home to make their life easier in whatever way they want to. It found two other fun ones. My Xbox, we always get fun stories. Like sometimes those are allowed, and there's like, hey, yeah, we let everybody cool off and do whatever they want to, and there's a break room with whatever in it. That's fine. Others are, oh, that's the third shift that should be doing work and is online gaming instead. And another really neat one, it found, and I've disconnected it because I'm working on some stuff, but it found my car. And we're actually working with an airport authority who didn't realize that their wireless was extended out to the parking lot, and they were having, people that were basically parking their cars and flying out of town, connecting to their Wi-Fi, and we started seeing a bunch of stuff out there. So it really is interesting to see kind of what cool things pop up on a network. So like I said, I think the onboarding piece it's well documented if you look at the IoT Protect admin guide. It's easy to turn on and start seeing some of this data from you. Like I said, we are kind of a victim of where our gateways are placed. So the closer we are to the devices that are doing this, the more we're going to see out of this network-based discovery piece. And then typically we'll start with customers to supplement this piece with whatever those integrations are. So going in and picking on a particular one here with, I'll pick on printers because I used that one earlier. When I mentioned, hey, we want to make some recommendations for you guys. This is under access control for these devices. So without me doing anything, IoT Protect found, you have a Brother printer and an HP printer. And you can see the recommendations we have for downloads. These are updated by us or kept up to date as we find these pieces, and they are very much outbound internet based, right? That's the idea, is we want to give you some level of restriction capabilities on IoT devices phoning home. So I can choose what to do here, and you can kind of see the details of it with the mode I select this to. Block means my printers can't talk to anything through this gateway. And that may or may not be good for you guys. You'll notice it won't detect anything like if I've got a print server internally that talks to them. It's not focused on specific traffic, east, west, or anything like that. But I can set different modes here, and I think I had it set to block before. If I set to prevent, you can see here. Okay, now I'm only allowing this to the approved destination I see below, and this is it. And all I have to do here is hit enforce. And what that'll do is, because I've got that integration with my management server, this will actually push a policy that reflects this configuration down to an IoT layer on my management server, which will then install policy to my gateway. So with one push here, I have basically changed my security status for these type of devices and figured out what to do with them there. Profiles right here. So these are where I selected, as I told you, that those third-party integrations. Let's just create a new one here real quick so you guys can see what it looks like. But I can select the discovery source. You can see the list here of various different DHCP servers. You see Cisco ICE. We are looking for additional things here. The next one that I'm kind of pushing for are wireless access controllers. If you have a larger enterprise that you have that, I know the third parties have gotten some good data out of that, and so can we if we're not the wireless provider, for the site. So I'd like to see that. But if you guys have any suggestions on other things to see here, would definitely welcome those. When I click any of those, if you're looking at doing this on your own, there'll be a click for more details here. This will link to an SK that that will give you the details about what's happening there. So it'll actually tell you, okay, here's the step-by-step. Here's what you have to do on Cisco ICE. Here's what you have to do on our side. Same thing where you can see then I populate, here's the IP address of whatever it is, or the FQDN and what kind of settings I want to do. But also you'll notice in that diagram before, I kind of had these cross-selected, so I can choose where I want this query to come from. So if I do it on my management server, there's reasons I would want to do management server or gateway. If it's Cisco ICE, I'm probably running that in a data center and my management server is probably right next to it, and it makes sense to do it, from here. If I'm talking about a distributed environment where maybe you have a DHCP server at each of 10 sites, it probably doesn't make sense to do it centrally and pull that across the WAN. Maybe you'd want to do that locally from the gateway that's there. Now, these I did not have to manually populate with that object sharing that I mentioned as step one. It will read in my gateways, and it will read in my policy packages that are a part of that as well. So this all gets automatically populated for anything I want to do with that. That's it for the third-party integrations. Like I said, those are pretty cut and dry. And of course, when I'm demoing here, I really need to stop monkeying with this right before demos. But you'll get the idea that will flow through there. Last thing I want to show you real quick is that Playblocks portion of it. And I'll just let's go over here real quick. So Playblocks, if you guys haven't seen it, it is in EA now. What Playblocks does, or the concept of it here, is automatic alerting and potentially remediation. So we're looking for some use cases here, but these are the connectors we have now. I can tie into my management server. I can get email alerts, SMS alerts, Slack, Teams, VirusTotal. We're also, the next one I'm aware of is ServiceNow to do auto ticketing. So again, on this day, if you guys have anything that makes sense to add here, let me know. I went a little overboard and turned on all of mine so that when I run a kind of a demonstration of this, all my stuff immediately starts blowing up, my email, my phone, everything. So, but you get the idea kind of what happens here. The automations themselves, these are made by Checkpoint today. We are working on letting a customer build their own as well, but you see some of these. So not just from the IoT side, you can actually see their stuff where we're reading in IPS logs, and we can actually, make determinations based on that. And I'll click on if known malicious. We actually have decision trees here of, hey, for this example of finding this thing, do I want to have an administrator's approval or not? If no, go ahead and block it. If yes, trigger some of those connectors and say, ask them via Teams, via SMS, via all those. So it actually alert the admin to whatever's happened, and it will, let you take an action right then on it. And I'll show you that now. If I so go back here, I'm going to pick on this one, and I'm going to do a kind of a fake one. So my story for this, I kind of forgotten I turned this on, and I got a new TV at home and connected it to Wi-Fi and was kind of going through the initial setup. And about 5 minutes later, I hear my tablet beep, my phone goes off, my laptop in the other room, hear everything chiming and exploding. And it was exactly this. It said, hey, you have a smart TV on your network now. Oh, that's nice. That's convenient to know. And again, that's the kind of stories like, hey, it's kind of nice to hear when new stuff pops up. Maybe you wouldn't want that day one as you're discovering everything that's on the network, but once you establish a baseline, that could be really good. So I'll say found more spaceship demos. And I use spaceship a lot, so I'm going to make it different so it's not me cheating the system here. But this would trigger IoT Protect finding something, a device type called spaceship demos. If I run that, and again, you'll start hearing all my stuff go bing, bing, bing. But what I'll see, there's my Teams alert that came in already. If I jump into that team, you'll see what actually happened here. So I have an alert set up, and there goes my SMS, and I see my email get to. But I get this interactive menu to say, okay, what do I want to do with this? Do I want to actually, move this into enforce now? Or do I want to just do it later? If I do later, it times out and somebody handles it manually. But if you sent this to a SOC, or again, if you're looking in your phone or whatever, you can click any of these and just, hitting enforce now, I can trigger this, and yeah, there's another email, and I'm done. Now, it's not, this is kind of hokey on the back end now because it's a demo one. It's not actually talking to my environment, but what that would practically do is actually set up, go into that profile type or that zone type and set that to a detect mode while I am, just from that click, and push that all the way down to the gateway to enforce it however I wanted to do there. So this is kind of another remote or quick way to get an idea on what's happening there. So I think that is about it that I wanted to show you guys for IoT Protect today, and we got a few minutes left. Are there any questions that I missed or anything else you guys would like to see while we have a few minutes left here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, I'm still struggling with audio over here, so tell me if I'm getting garbled. That screen you just showed there with where you can push the enforce now, if how does it know what gateway to enforce that on?
Yeah, good question. So it's going to know this because that gateway is going to be the one that reported that asset, right? So, and there you go. Okay, so now you see it's now secured. It's gone through its exercise there. So that's going to be triggered based on which gateway, in that section of where it's detected. Because I only have one gateway reporting, it's not really an ideal scenario here. But let's say it had found printers. It's going to say to do this to any of the gateways that actually reported in these two printers.
I got you. Okay, good. How about can you get reporting out of the vulnerabilities that it saw on this site, or is it just a screenshot of the alerts?
I'm not on which page. Sorry. I'm not
well, reporting. Can you get reports out of this? Sent over to you about the vulnerabilities that popped up besides the SMS?
Not yet. We are working on a couple things on trying to get this into a smart event or some kind of other reporting piece that says, hey, here's the new asset types this week. That's kind of a bit of a roadmap thing for later in the year. Now we kind of want to get the fundamental detection piece working, and once we're sure of what those log formats look like and things like that, then we'll move in to make sure we report that in a clean fashion. For now, basically the piece, if you want to look at it, is your log records are updated with machine names, right, related to this, but also you can go in here and look at events, right, and see what's happening with it. Okay.
And you said the only requirement is 8120. That's for SMB and
yeah.
boxes.
So 8120 on main train, there is a hot fix for 8110 if anyone's interested in that. We've had it developed for some time. We haven't rolled it into a GA jumbo hot fix yet because we haven't had enough interest in people testing it. So most people that are looking at it, I think, are just jumping straight to 8120. But if you do have a need for 8110 on that, we have options for that. With SMB, I know it's safe to say 8110.05. I've been running it in EA version since 8110.00. So basically in the 8110.x code train, you'll be able to run it here on the SMB boxes.
Okay, and I guess there's no structured polling. It's just always gathering the information. There's not a certain time that it polls the network for new devices.
Correct. Yeah, it is always looking for anything new, any new MAC addresses that pop up, or anything that would populate there, and it's going to report them immediately. Like my smart TV example, I don't think I hit any polling interval. It just watched it long enough to figure out what it was, sent it up, and told me, boom.
Great. I think that covers it. Unless I missed anything, somebody let me know. Throw it in the Q&A. Let me see here. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, Justin. Great information. We'll send a follow-up email with any referenced content and the recording link of this session. Our next webinar will be in 2 weeks. That subject is utilizing mutual TLS with the log exporter. You'll see the invite for that soon. With that, we'll let you go. Justin, thanks again for joining us, and everybody else, enjoy your day. Thank you.